The explosion has already passed. Where sound once existed, there is now silence, heavy and absolute. The city still stands, but nothing moves, as if time itself has briefly forgotten this place. Seconds later, dust begins to fall like grey snow from the sky. Streets are empty, yet filled with debris and drifting ash, settling slowly onto cars, sidewalks, and motionless street signs. Those who remain conscious struggle to understand what has happened. There is no context, no explanation, only the sense that something vast and irreversible has just occurred. Standardexed builds closest to the center are scarred, their outer walls torn away. Interiors are exposed to open air, frozen in place like unfinished thoughts interrupted mid-sentence. Minutes pass, and the silence begins to fracture. Distant alarms sound weakly, their echoes bouncing through empty streets without direction or response. Survivors emerge slowly from doorways and rubble, moving cautiously. Faces are pale, movements uncertain, as if the ground itself can no longer be trusted beneath their feet. The sky above the city has changed color, tinted by lingering smoke and particles. Sunlight struggles to break through, casting a dull, unfamiliar glow over everything it touches. Communication networks fail almost immediately. Radios produce only static, telephones remain silent, and the city becomes isolated from the rest of the world without explanation. Small fires begin to appear across the city, sparked by damaged infrastructure and broken lines. They spread slowly at first, feeding on debris and the absence of organized response. By the first hour, confusion turns into movement. People walk without direction, calling out names that receive no answers, searching for something familiar in a landscape that no longer feels real. Emergency services attempt to respond, but coordination is impossible. Roads are blocked, landmarks are gone, and every decision feels smaller than the disaster surrounding them. As hours pass, smoke thickens and visibility drops. The city becomes a maze of shadows, where familiar routes no longer lead where memory says they should. By midday, exhaustion begins to replace shock. Survivors sit wherever they can, surrounded by rubble, waiting for help that has not yet arrived. The fires continue to spread, merging into larger zones of heat and smoke. Entire districts burn without resistance, slowly reshaping the city's outline against the sky. Those farther from the center begin to realize the scale of what has happened. This is not an accident, not a single disaster, but something far beyond anything they have known. By the afternoon, the city grows quieter again. Movement slows, voices fade, and the remaining sounds belong mostly to fire, wind, and collapsing structures. No official explanation has arrived. Without information, fear fills the gaps, spreading faster than fire, reshaping thoughts as much as the landscape itself. The sun begins its slow descent, dimmed by smoke and dust. Shadows stretch unnaturally long, turning streets into dark corridors that few are willing to enter. As evening approaches, the temperature drops slightly. Those still standing prepare for night without power, without guidance, and without knowing what the darkness will bring. By late afternoon, the city no longer feels alive. It feels suspended, caught between what it once was and what it will become, waiting for night to reveal the full cost of the day. As night falls, the city loses what little structure remains. Without electricity, streets dissolve into darkness, broken only by scattered fires and the faint glow of embers drifting through the air. The absence of light changes everything. Familiar places become unrecognizable, and survivors move carefully, afraid of debris, unstable ground, and what they cannot see ahead of them. Smoke thickens as cooler night air traps it closer to the ground. Breathing becomes difficult, and the city feels smaller, compressed beneath a heavy, unmoving sky. Small groups gather wherever light or warmth exists. They speak quietly, sharing fragments of rumors, trying to assemble meaning from confusion and fear without any reliable information. Far from the center, fires continue to burn unchecked. Entire blocks glow faintly on the horizon, marking where the city is still being consumed, even as night deepens. Emergency responders work where they can, but coordination has collapsed. Without communication or clear leadership, every action feels isolated, small, and painfully insufficient. Many choose to stay where they are, fearing movement more than stillness. They sit among debris and broken walls, listening to distant fires and waiting for a dawn they are no longer certain will help. The city sounds different now. Metal cools and contracts, distant structures collapse, and wind moves through empty streets, creating noises that feel unfamiliar and unsettling. Above it all, the sky remains strangely clear beyond the smoke. Stars look unchanged, indifferent, shining down on a city that feels suddenly and profoundly insignificant. As the night stretches on, exhaustion overtakes fear. People drift into shallow, restless sleep wherever they can, surrounded by rubble, smoke, and unanswered questions. In the deepest hours of the night, fires finally begin to weaken. What remains is smoke, glowing ruins, and a city holding its breath in uneasy silence. Without clocks or working radios, time loses meaning. Hours blend together, measured only by fatigue and the slow cooling of the air. Just before dawn, the sky begins to lighten almost imperceptibly. The darkness recedes, revealing shapes and damage that night had mercifully hidden. As morning approaches, survivors rise slowly. They brace themselves, knowing daylight will bring clarity and with it understanding they may not be ready to face. The sun rises through a haze of smoke and dust. Its light is weak and filtered, casting a pale glow over destruction that now stretches farther than anyone imagined. In daylight, the scale of the disaster becomes undeniable. Entire districts lie damaged or burning, landmarks erased, and streets transformed into unfamiliar paths through ruin. Survivors walk silently through the wreckage, searching for people, places, or signs of help. Every step confirms that the city they knew no longer exists. No official announcements arrive. Without guidance, the survivors understand that recovery will not be quick, and that help, if it comes, will arrive too late for many. By the end of the first morning, the city stands exposed under open sky. What was once ordinary life now feels distant, belonging to another world entirely. The first 24 hours come to an end, not with resolution, but with understanding. The world did not end that day, but for this city, everything that followed would be forever shaped by what was lost.